provide on certain days of the week, we provide free meals, not like expensive meals or something, like just supper, because normally at night, supper, just something like posho and beans.
It's just a mindset.
Wednesday exactly. And people post those things on statuses, but you don't know that people actually, but this is not the person you're going to see struggling for tuition because they are sponsored, but the money, it's just not there to buy something to eat.
Oh, I'll pause you right there. Guys, I hope you are taking note of what part of the manifesto stands out for you. And please go ahead and send your questions in the comment section or tweet using the hashtag UCUDecides2022. 22, not 2022. Remove that 20 and put just 22, because we're curious to know what hot questions you have for the amazing candidates that we have with me in studios today. But still taking on the conversation, I know that the manifestos will still come up as we discuss as the conversation goes on. But now that we know what exactly you're fronting in your manifesto, you are students, and I've been a student in UCU here, and I know what students go through. But I'm curious to know from your different angles, what 3 emerging issues do you intend to address and solve once given an opportunity to lead the Students' Guild?
Thank you very much. Like I said in my manifesto, the priority is first tuition as a social responsibility of the Guild government. The burden that we have on tuition is one that necessitates that we accommodate every other single student, regardless of their inability to pay tuition. But it should be our social responsibility to see to it that our friend is able at least to stay in school, because I know many of our friends get frustrated over time whenever our friend studies a whole time over the semester, and at the end of the semester, they're not able to access their results, or they're not able to sit in for an examination, or they're not able to submit a coursework also. So it would be my commitment in the next Guild leadership to see to it that, one, we take on that responsibility as a social responsibility. Again, looking at what has worked before and looking at what has not worked and developing something much better and comprehensive enough in response.
Okay, that's your first emerging issue. The next one will be?
The next one will be on service delivery. I feel like as a Guild government, we ought to take on the aspect of service delivery more seriously. Service delivery in the sense that the services dispensed by the different stakeholders, the university itself, the private service providers within the university and outside the university, ought to create value for money. Okay.
What part of service delivery do you think is lacking?
Well, I'll be more specific in about 2 things. When you look at services offered to us within the university, especially for those who stay inside the halls of residence, the halls are so dilapidated. I mean, the amenities and the facilities within the halls do not reflect the standard of how much we pay as students. So it would be our commitment first to ensure that the university lifts its standards of providing services in that regards. I'm also looking at the facilitation in regards to different infrastructure within the university. When you walk into the different infrastructure, such as the DH, you're not able to access a service. I mean, the sockets are off, Wi-Fi is not working so well in some places within the university. Again, it would be our commitment as leadership to see to it that we work hard and ensure that we improve on such services, okay? That's within the university. Outside the university, it's our commitment to see to it that our students are secure. Again, it's a challenge that many of our students face. You realize that currently the stats say about 3 gadgets are stolen or taken away from students.
I'm curious to know what your source is. What's your source for these statistics that you're quoting?
Well, we do have a police station within the university, and it's okay to visit whenever, more so whenever you're gathering information. So
is that 3 gadgets on average, or?
On average, actually.
Interesting. I think we'll need to cross-check with the police station to ensure that you're giving us the right stats. Huh? Yeah. Please go ahead.
So I've talked about 3 things. One is my response to tuition, and then secondly, service delivery from the different stakeholders within the university and outside, and then security.
Interesting, Timothy. What emerging issues do you intend to address once given an opportunity to lead the Students' Guild?
Oh, thank you so much for that question as well. There will be a little bit similar to what he has been talking about, my brother Jerem, because as you've talked about, these are the issues that keep on re-emerging every time we run for leadership. So you have to take a different approach to see what we can do about them. Well, I would start with the tuition again. Whereas we continue doing what we have always been doing, advocating, trying to get scholarships on board through partnerships and all those different things, we can make accounts, make paying, make clearing easier. And that is what we are going to start with on that end. And then we shall go further from there with accountability. And then the other thing would be about, as he talked about, security. Security for the non-residents is a bit worrying. And well, it's not something you can just snap at once and it disappears, but it's something that we can gradually solve.
How do you intend to do that?
Yes, lighting, as you're going to some hostels, is not good. And we have always talked about electrifying, lighting up the place, putting electric poles and everything, but sometimes it's not been cost effective. That is why we've gone a step further. We've been in discussions with electricians from Umeme. And also,
what's your link with Umeme? You know, you don't just walk up to the offices and you're like, hey, some areas in Buguju do not have lights. I'm curious to know how you got to the discussions with Umeme, because, you know, as much as this debate is meant to give you an opportunity to front yourself as the best candidate, I think we need to keep it as real as possible. So I'm curious to know what your discussions with Umeme, how they started. Are they there anyway?
Well, thank you for that as well. I think it's important to the viewers. That position of the Busega youth, during that time. So, well, in this time, we also had the issue of dark spots. And then we contacted Umeme through electrician. It's a lengthy process, but it's something that we did and it worked for our home area. You know, there are these kinds of lights that are solar, but they do not need poles. You can just put them on the already existing electric poles, and they are not expensive. They are 450,000 below. So you've already engaged the Hostel Owners Association. If we can say that, okay, the Soso Court, the Carlton owner, there is a dark spot there.
You mentioned the Hostel Owners Association. Who heads that association?
The owner of Kronos.
Do you have his name?
Chairperson. The name escapes me.
Okay, please go ahead.
But yes, that is a platform that we can engage as the guild. And then if these people in groups of 2 or 3 contribute 200,000 each, we select strategic places, put those solar lights, at least we shall have begun lighting those dark spots. Simple as that. So that is security and also a tuition clearance.
Interesting. Okay, I hope what you say you shall deliver. For us, we will vote and we will leave the rest to you. Yeah. On to our next question. You've talked about tuition and security, but what does your priority list look like? That one thing that takes the lead on your list, that one thing that you're confident and you know that for sure once given a chance to lead, that is what you're starting with. So Timothy, we will start with you this time.
Thank you. My one thing comes
priority.
Priority comes from my why, the why I gave at the beginning, why I'm standing for the position. I want to see things happen. I want to see solutions. I want to follow up after a campaign, what is happening. So the first thing that we are going to do, that I plan to do, of course, on advice with the cabinet, is opening up the guild, having open guild days, where on Tuesday and Thursday, 5 to 7 p.m. will be specially for the students. This amplifies the whole inclusion bit, but puts it in practice. That Thursday 5 to 7, we shall be in the DH. In that way, people can talk to us, people can ask us different questions, and we can also communicate with the people. So in this way, there is that direct link, and we won't need manifestos or wait an entire year for the next November to listen to each other. That is the one thing I want to do. I want after someone votes me, they can still talk to me or talk to my minister, and then the next week I'm giving feedback.
Interesting. And you, what's on your priority list?
On my priority list is a response of the guild leadership to tuition. As a social challenge we are facing as a university.
Thank you very much. I will hold you to your word. And let me just take you a few steps behind. You both keep mentioning accountability. What accountability systems will you put in place to ensure that first you are doing the right thing, and next that you are actually working? So it's easy to mention accountability in a broad term, but what does your accountability framework look like?
Okay, that's preempting my discussion on leadership under my manifesto. On the response to accountability as one of the key points under my manifesto in regards to leadership, we ought to be transparent as a guild leadership. So mine is how best can we communicate whatever we do as a guild government, because accountability does not just limit us to resources, but how are we delivering as well? So that transparency comes with the aspect of communication, but also availability to the students, that students can easily access us and ask. So the communication bit necessitates that, one, we publish whatever happens in the guild in the different platforms.
How sure are we that will be transparent? Because it's easy to edit these books to your favor.
Well, as it is, I think the measure of effectiveness is not just limited to books only. That's word, okay?
Yeah.
But the practicability will always show how effective we are as a guild government. I think this is something we'll not run away from. Students will always see whether we are speaking the truth.
And judge by the measure of what you're doing.
Exactly.
Timothy, what does your accountability framework look like?
Well, again, going back to my why. So direct to the point. When we talk about that guild day and feedback, when community worship the following week, after we talk to the students, just those 2 hours, you interact, you give feedback. Yeah. That is one way of accountability. I'm always in your face. I'm telling you what I am doing about a certain issue. But beyond that, when I talked about digitization, uploading minutes of parliament, uploading roadmap of the government, and uploading law reports of the tribunal, everything is out in the open. And I would always, that interaction during the guild, open guild days. One thing for accountability.
Interesting. The guild is meant to be a pro-students body. Pro meaning for the students. And I am curious to know how you intend to make this come true during your term of office. Timothy?
Oh, yes. I am enjoying these questions because they all lead back to the why.
Yeah.
Pro-students. So the students that voted us, we are for those students. They expect something from us. They expect to talk to us whenever they need to. They expect us to handle their issues whenever they arise.
That is the expectation. How will you make it come true?
Exactly. I'm going back again to the programs of Tuesday and Thursday. First of all, the relationship between the guild and the students is still lacking. And that is the bridge that we intend to put. If Thursday we are there in the DH, approachable, DH has no doors, literally. Yeah. And you can come talk to me, tell me your issue. Then I give you feedback during community worship, 3 minutes. If you feel hard, then you can trust. And then the influence and the communication between the guild and the students is strengthened in that way. And pro-student, that's the definition of pro-student.
Thank you, Timothy. Jerem.
Thank you very much. Like you said, the guild is pro-students because the students are the ones who elect us. So we are representing the students. So how are we going to make this come to pass? Okay. More importantly, as a guild leadership, we ought to be inclusive in our programming. Okay. Like I said earlier on, for us to make the guild leadership more relevant to the students and the students more relevant to the guild government, we ought to be inclusive. Okay.
It's easy to say more relevant, but what do you mean by relevance?
Relevance in the sense that the guild speaks to the interests of the students. The students and see whatever is happening in the guild is what they envision and what they expect from the guild. If it's talk about representation in policy making, it's what students want to see happen. So the inclusion.
I think it's a thin line, because when you say it's what the students want, I've been a student, and most of the times what we want might not be the right thing, right? So it's so easy to say what the students want is what we shall do. But the reality comes in because what sometimes we, the students, want is not the right thing. Now, I don't know how you're being pro-students by saying no to something they would want to hear a yes to. As a leader, how do you handle a situation like that? Okay. I think that will actually go to the both of you.
Thank you very much. to make sure that whatever students expect from us as a guild government is actually realistic and speaks to, actually I would want to say more relevant, I think we would want to visit and see that how then is this going to impact us as students, okay? Because if we are, for example, if students want inclusion in a policy making process, such as we actually saw it happen recently. We saw the library being closed away from students who were not able to pay tuition, and their expectation is we as students as well should have been included in this policy making. We would want to access the library. So at the end, we want to see, would it be something viable to do so? Okay, is it right that the students should access the library on? Okay, so the measure for it being either relevant or effective or actually true or something that is real and not something biased towards the student side will only come at the end of the day if it's effective, okay, and as well relevant to the administration. Because at the end of the day, we ought to strike that balance. But again, understanding that we are representing the students, because leadership loses its relevance if we forget the part that students ought to be represented.
Interesting. Timothy, how will you maintain the balance of what is right and what the students want?
Yes, you have put it right. Actually, there is a difference between doing things right and doing the right thing. There's a difference between actually finding a solution and looking like you are finding the solution. And sometimes students or people who elect generally are excited by someone who looks like they're finding a solution. But that takes us into a longer cycle because the solution is never found, but the publicity of me looking for the solution is the focus. But the solution should be our focus right now. And in that way, as he has talked about, we should look at win-win situations. The university, what does it want? What are the values that it pushes? What are the things it would want to see?
Interesting. You mentioned the values. So what are the UCU values?
Well, the core values are integrity, diligence, servanthood, stewardship, Christ-centeredness.
I don't know. I wish there's a way I would stop. I would stop you from listening to the answers so that we can see if you both know what the values are. That is pretty impressive. Sorry, I cut you short. Just to wrap it up, then we can get to the next.
All right. But it's all about looking at policies in a win-win way. What do the students want? What do the administration want? And then how do you find that middle ground? How do you find the balance?
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's no doubt that UCU is a center of excellence in the heart of Africa. First of all, just to ensure that we are on the same page, do you believe that?
Yes.
Jeremy, you do. What makes you think UCU is a center of excellence in the heart of Africa?
Yeah.
Very much. Talking about UCU being a center of excellence in the heart of Africa, it's actually true, and I entirely believe the brand UCU has created outside there, right from its core values that Timothy stated quite earlier, is something that is just exhibited outside there, and it's one thing you see in any other UCU student. So that said, of course, you know the theme of Uganda Christian University is a complete person, a complete education for a complete person. So that completeness creates that brand together with those core values merged together. You will find a student of Uganda Christian University is one who holds themselves with that sense of integrity, is one who embraces servanthoodness, is one who's a good steward of resources outside there. So yes, it's no doubt that UCU is actually a center of excellence in the heart of Africa. The holistic kind of response and character in students is exhibitant.
Well, definitely. UCU is a center of excellence in the heart of Africa because its whole aura, the way when you come into UCU, it's one of the few institutions whereby character development is at the center of everything. The core values that UCU represents are put into the lectures, the people that are cleaning, down to the ground workers, to the vice chancellor. Everyone it's just excellent. It's just excellent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that we both believe that UC is a center of excellence in the heart of Africa, how do you intend to keep that kind of burning? Because we're not about to have you for a guild president and all of a sudden our standards are going down. Yeah. So how do you intend to keep that kind of burning or make it even shine brighter?
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, to go specific is when we reduce the sphere down to the students, how do we intend to keep the students or the student leaders in this kind of in this question to keep that candle burning? As a government, we intend to roll out the fuel program. Now, the fuel program in full is the first undergraduate experience in leadership, such that when the current guild government is
Pardon, please say that again.
first undergraduate experience in leadership.
Interesting.
Yes. In this way, if, for example, the 25th government is serving, the people we intend to serve in the next year, in the next government, can enroll in this program, in this fuel program. They can be guided, mentored on how to find win-win policies, because those are difficult. What does a university want? What do the students want? And how can we bring it to life?
Yeah.
So this will be able to mentor students such that where the 26th government begins from is not where the 25th begins from. 27th higher, 28th higher. We are not finding our way again beginning from zero. No.
Interesting. That is how he's about to keep the candle burning and make it shine brighter. I'd like to know from you, Jerem, how you think you will step in to ensure that we don't lose our title as a center of excellence in the heart of Africa, but even more importantly, make us shine brighter than we already are.
Okay, thank you very much once more for the question. And of course, my commitment and the vision I have built over time for my leadership, at the end of the day, if I serve this community of Uganda Christian University, it should be to beautify every single student's experience in the university. That every single student feels like at the time I was at Uganda Christian University, leadership gave me a chance to survive, a chance to study, regardless of my weakness, regardless of my challenges. And so we would want to enhance this through things like team building. We would want to introduce different team building activities. We would want to look at things, capacity building activities. Like my mission is to ensure that we embrace character development over time. And so how would we want to do this? We would want to embrace different activities aside from just academics only, that as well contribute to my being complete as a student in the university. Okay. But also central to that and below that is just leadership being responsive enough to ensure that every single student's needs are catered for. That when they are at the university, when they are studying, they are able to study with free mind, but also embrace other opportunities within the university. And opportunities we would want to identify with things like business, I talked about co-curricular activities, sports, debates and all that. This holistic kind of approach should be embraced to make someone full. And the excellence comes from that being complete as a student.
Interesting. It's nice that you bring in the angle of extracurricular activities, because that was my next point of discussion. And we know that UCU has made such a big name as far as extracurricular activities are concerned. Moods, sports, we have great teams out there. And as a prospective leader of the students community, what strategies will you put in place to ensure maximum optimization of such opportunities?
Thank you so much for that question as well. It brings me to a sector of my manifesto that addresses that co-curricular activities, associations and everything. And yes, as a student, when you come to UCU, it is not only the academics that are at offer. In fact, before you come to UCU, you hear about the sports teams, how well they are doing. When you come to UCU, you meet the mutas and everything, and it's amazing, really. But we can go further on this. We have different associations that represent the people in different, maybe faculties or people that have a common value. For example, the human rights and law society, business society. And we, as the 25th government, we want to also include these people in our government in such a way that we intend to bring an association week that will be to celebrate and appreciate what the different associations are doing, to compete with each other, and to find the leading association per se, maybe per semester, given a prize such that the activities are promoted, there is student awareness, and there is identity in terms of association. I want to be part of this association and help it win. In that way, we shall be holistic.
Association week sounds nice to the ear. A little more detail on what association week would look like.
Well, it would, what can I compare it with? Let me paint an image in your mind. Association week would be the time, you know how business society has come up recently, and it has been doing well for a start. And well, law society, we've been hearing about the law society and what it does and everything like that. So if we have this 1 week where these people will gear up, and because among themselves they talk about how they would want to be the most popular society. So if in this week they would be forced to innovate, find out how will they pull students, how will they accentuate their goals, their visions as an association, what kind of talents or exhibitions will they put forward in this week to make sure that they are considered the leading association officially.
And what are your foreseen benefits of the association week?
Well,
remember, we are looking at how best we can maximize the opportunities that are being rendered by the different extracurricular activities.
Oh, yes. Well, through the association week, one thing, awareness. If, for example, we have the Acholi Association competing in this association week, maybe they're
Do you belong to your own association?
Oh, yes, I do.
You do?
I do.
If we asked the president to come now, they would know that you subscribed as a member last semester and you're still with him.
Yes, and many other associations.
We will cross-check. We will.
Yes. Well, as I said, yes, so association week. So in this time, awareness. If the Acholi Association is participating and they're maybe showing something, or maybe in this way, there's some Acholi working in school that do not know what the Acholi Association does or what they're about. In this way, they're attracted and they'll know, oh, I want to participate in something, I want to win. But beyond that, we can have the business society, these societies of like courses or departments. In that way, you can see what they're doing, you want to participate, you learn, and also competition develops people. It develops your edge.
Okay, before we get into the Q&A session, still to answer that question, how are we using these platforms or the advantage that we have? We know we are good in sports, we are good in moods. How are we maximizing those opportunities, especially for the students that you, as the next guild president, will be leading?
Big Five agenda, the response of leadership to sports and co-curricular activities is very key and should be taken seriously, because we are looking at sports and co-curricular activities are things that make us complete as students. We are not only limited to academics during our time at school. And so it would be prudent as the leadership to have a contribution towards building these different co-curricular activities. And I'll delve in deeply quickly. So we are looking at sports and how best can we boost our sports. Okay, I understand that our sports fraternity has limited facilitation. I know of situations where some of our sports students, the professional sports students, were made to buy balls, and yet this would be the responsibility of the guild. I think, again, the guild to advocate, but also part of the guild budget would want to see that we should be able to procure for the sports fraternity, the sports equipments. So we would want to see that we as a guild partner with the administration and see that we procure the sports equipment to facilitate the different activities. We are looking at how best can we create a sense of belonging towards the sports fraternity. Okay, currently we have our sports, but not so serious. Like I said, one, we should facilitate the sport, but also how best can we make students identify with the sports. On the side of the professional sports, the basketballers and the volleyballers and all those, most times whenever our students, the professional students who play these games, go and play outside in competitive matches, they are not taken along with funds. Okay, and there is a complaint that if it and it would be our suggestion and again our commitment to see that at least as people go out for these sports engagements, we as well secure a space for our funds. Again, we are creating a sense of belonging and attachment. Under co-curricular activities, I'm looking at how best can we facilitate the different entities within the university, debates, okay? Many of our students in the debate fraternity facilitate themselves, and the glory comes back to the university when they win. Again, we would want to see that, can we have a part for them in our budget, and see that as well, we procure for them whatever they may need, but also advocate for them before the administration. I am looking at a business community as something that is very integral in this university. Many of our students survive on businesses. So we would want to see how we would promote the business community. One, creating a common market. Like I said, it goes back to the influence we ought to create as a guild government. If we are able to influence our students and make them feel like they are part of this cause, and whenever we speak to them, they feel like, yeah, we are relevant to them, then we should be able to foster a community of business, create a common market, but also procure and advocate for opportunities. Many of our students do businesses, but they do businesses and they struggle so much on their own capacities.
Advocate for opportunities.
Yes.
How?
Okay. The university has a lot of spaces from within the university where we would want to see as well students push for students as well.
Spaces like what?
Where they could actually set up their businesses.
Like empty rooms
and... Yeah, sure.
Interesting. Do you have an example of a space like that?
Next to Joy Canteen, just behind the ice cream place, there is a space, though we're not yet sure about it. But recently the university is doing an extension plan above the DH, where many of the canteens are going to be put up that side. So we would want to see that some of our students as well get opportunities in such places and get spaces. I am looking at how best can we advocate for a tax-free business for a student, okay? Understanding that so many of our students are dependent on such businesses, okay? As a guild government, again, in regards to co-curricular activities, we would want to see that we promote skills, okay? In a consequent guild government. We want to take off some time over the semester and just do a skill up initiative where students are able to learn.
What does that look like? What does that skills?
Now, a skill up initiative is where we identify about 5 skills in a semester. We take off a weekend from our normal time, and students are invited to either the boardroom, the DH, any other open place.
And the funds to run that will still be off the guild fund?
Yeah. Because I think an initiative like making liquid soap, bakery, and the likes wouldn't cost too much, okay? And yet such soft skills, students would actually embrace and take them, because at the end of the day, many of our students are not just going to survive on their academics, and it's okay for us to really identify with such skills, which as well build students. If we are looking at a complete student, we should be able to not only create job seekers, but as well job creators.
Wow, it looks nice on paper until you get into office, and that is when we'll test for sure that we can hold you by your word. Please remember to send your comments or questions in the comments section. It's nice to see the support that is going on, but I'm also not seeing questions. I don't know if it's just me or the support is really, really good, and we see you shouting for your candidates, but also please bring in the questions, because we'd like you to interact with your prospective guild presidents. As we wait for the questions from the audience to come in, we'll move on to the next. So the guild government is meant to link the students' body to the decision-making bodies of the university. And I've had you going on and saying you want to bridge the gap. And still, I remember in my first year, they still told me that they had come to do what? To bridge the gap. And I don't know if there is a point where we'll arrive at and we say, guys, there is a bridge you can step on and it is so safe. I am curious to know how you intend to ensure that that bridge that has for so long been talked about, does this bridge never get up? Do we eat the cement? What's going on? The bridge has become the bridge. And I hope that bridge stops with the 25th guild government. Yeah? So what do you have to say about this bridge that never gets off the foundation? I don't know if it was ever built in any way. I just get so confused about this whole bridging the gap. Is the gap so big that we might need 1,000 tons of cement? What's going on? I'd like to hear from you. What are your opinions on the guild government and bridging the gap between the students and the administration?
Thank you very much. I'll go first. I think bridging the gap does not mean that there is already a gap that has not been filled. The consistency and the need for leadership requires that there is a bridge between the students and the administration, a bridge which is going to communicate what students would want as well, but also what administration would want before the students. So that representative aspect of leadership can never be relegated or put aside.
Please go ahead.
Well, yes, just as you have said, we've heard about the bridge for so long now. And personally, I think that maybe we see, because when we are talking about the bridge, we are talking about the government building the bridge to the administration that connects to the students. But as I said from the beginning, perhaps when we build the bridge to the students during campaigns, then after campaigns, we remove that bridge, then we try to build the one to administration. And then we look back and we are like, well, so I'm hoping the government itself is the bridge, should be the bridge, connecting both ways through accountability, through consistency, training leaders on how to think on win-win policies, listening consistently to people and what they would like to be done. There are the issues and all, consistent listening. And then it doesn't stop there because they've always listened. I commend them. They have listened and they've also tried to solve.
So you listen better? I don't know.
Yes.
What does listening better look like?
Well, listening better could be, you see, I'm listening to you right now. But when I do this, when I put down my microphone, I'm listening better. It doesn't mean that when I was holding a microphone, I was not hearing what you're saying. But when I'm putting down this microphone, you are feeling heard. So that is the kind of listening we're going to do. We're going to make sure that the students feel heard by giving them feedback. If I know when you say something, that is feedback, and it's a communication that I have heard, that is what our feedback is going to look like.
Oh, wow. So they've promised us to listen better, and that the gap is not so big, but they're coming to strengthen the bridge. That's what you tried to allude to. And we're curious to know how you'll do that. We're still waiting for your questions. I can see the support is really at its best. I don't know. Are you guys dumbfounded because these guys are good, or are we scared to ask? I don't think that's the case, but please ask whatever questions you'd want to hear your candidates respond to. However, this is a reminder and a call that you need to verify your voting eligibility on alpha.ucu.ac.ug. So once you log in, please verify that your personal email is displayed on your dashboard and it is your active personal email. Then under positions, also ensure that you have all the positions that you qualify to vote for showing on your dashboard. And then in case you changed your password, it is meant to be known to only you because it is just you that is supposed to have access to your account. You're highly advised to change it if you shared it with somebody else. Make sure that you're registered to vote for your better candidates, okay? Just to take it a little bit personal as we wait for the questions. I think you guys have done a good job. The audience seems to have no questions. Is that what you think? Yeah, you got them dumbfounded. They're probably now. There's a question, but I think it ran up so fast. I don't know if the tech team can help me get back to it. I think it was a bit lengthy. I couldn't read it because they're so fast. Oh, wow. Okay, in case there's one that comes in, I'll request the tech team to, I don't know, if possible, freeze that page so that we can have access to the questions. I think I've seen one that has also disappeared. Anyway, as we get in on that, to take it a little bit personal, every human has their strong attributes and those areas that need more work. I hate to call them weaknesses, but I think that those areas that need improvement and intense attention. And as a prospective leader, I hope, and we as your supporters hope, that you are doing a good job with being self-aware. Yeah. So kindly share with ask your supporters and the people that you intend to lead in not very long from now, what strong attributes you think you possess, and maybe those aspects of yourself that you're intentionally working on to be an all-round better person.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll talk about 3 strong aspects of mine that as well give me a platform to lead. One is team building. Okay, the ability to make people come together from their different and diverse identities, but come together on a common platform. Team building is very key, and it's been my strength over time. And significantly, it's been seen from my relations with my classmates and all that. Secondly is mobilization. Mobilization is a very key strength of mine, and it's been one of the things that has enabled me again run so far in leadership. Okay, and then I'll talk about communication and networking. Communication and networking. At the end of the day, I believe I'm a good communicator, that I send a message home in a more precise and concise way. Then networking, of course, which of course has communication at the bedrock.
Interesting. And then the points that you think need a little improvement, what people would call weaknesses, but I hate to call them that, because I think we have a chance to become better every day. So qualifying them as weaknesses feels like, yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. But what are those aspects that you are continuously working on for yourself?
It's taking me so long to really comprehend one.
So you're like the all-round perfect person?
Not really, not really. But I think it skipped my mind for now.
Okay. I hope you can remember, because it is very important to us as the people that will vote you to know what the whole package comes with. So I'll give you just a minute to put it to word, and then we can get to it. Yes, Timothy.
Thank you for those personal questions.
Yes.
If we can talk about strengths, I would start with team building, as he talked about. We are here because we trust our ability to build teams, to organize teams towards a singular vision, a singular goal. And on top of that, there is also critical thinking, because as I began from the beginning, it's all about trying to study where is the gap, and what can I do to step into that gap? What can be my small contribution to make this entire system better? So critical thinking is another one. Then at the third, if I'm to mention 3, would be articulation, because that is very important. If I speak to you and I explain my vision to you, or I explain what I'm trying to achieve, can you understand that? Because in the end, it is when you're in a team, they can only go where you would like them to go if you're clear with what you're talking about and they understand it. But if you could say weaknesses, I would like to honestly say that if you are to vote me, you vote a leader who doesn't know everything.
Yeah.
And that is why I know that, and I appreciate that. That is why I'm highly dependent on advice, cabinet. I'm always trying to learn more, listen more, because I know I do not know everything.
Interesting. We have a few questions coming in from the chat, but then we'll also request you, if you really want to air out your question, please raise your hand, and then we'll be able to give you an opportunity to speak out or to ask your question in person. But there's some here, and BBN says, good evening and thanks for this. It is no rumor that law school dominates in student-centered activities in UCU. But practically speaking, how do both candidates intend to include other faculties? Because the inclusion has been failing us up to date, leading to questioning of the relevance of the guild. Associations seem to be more relevant, I must say. So what are the candidates' thoughts on this? I will start with you from the Faculty of Law.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to begin by saying that the democracy and the need for leadership in Uganda Christian University is bigger than just law school only. Okay, and that's why I envision a leadership that believes that we are stronger together, regardless of our different identities. Yeah. How then do I intend to make sure that I'm inclusive in my leadership? over time and not only limited to only law students? Well, we learn from our past mistakes and past experiences, things that have not worked for us. So we ought to transform and change, learn from that more importantly. So in my guild leadership, consequently, I intend to first make sure that there is equal distribution of opportunities in all faculties, leadership itself, that we spread out leadership responsibilities, not only within the law faculty or a faculty where the guild president emanates from, but all other faculties. More importantly, I intend to, in my leadership, decentralize leadership to all different associations, fellowships, and institutions, because again I understand that for us to reach out to a student down there, then what is these different institutions are much closer to the students. So it's quite important that we incorporate them in our guild leadership.
Oh wow, thank you very much. What do you have to say about that, Timothy?
Well, since especially that I'm a person from maybe these what someone could say the other faculties, I want to start first and foremost by saying it may not be an exact person's fault that it is that way. You know, it just so happens that at the moment, the guild activities are happening in a semester where maybe the largest school that we have, School of Business, is not on semester. And then it so happens that they're even being shifted to the Ankara Foundation, and there is just, you know, these people, the people who graduate from business and the people who graduate from maybe law or engineer, you can have very different people at the end of the day, because I've been in both semesters, I've been on all year round this time, and the differences are big. But as the person who asked the question stated at the end, that associations tend to be more relevant than the guild, I am not going to object to that entirely, because associations, I intend to use associations as an arm to reach into those other faculties, especially the faculties that miss out on the core activities that happen, so that they don't miss out on the UCU experience. That is how we're going to start gradually engage the associations of business, SWASA, so that we listen to each other and we include each other.
Yeah, and I think this question on the law faculty taking or being the focus of the guild leaders, because it turns out, and a number of times we've had guild presidents that come from the law faculty. I still want to know, in the briefest way possible, how you intend to strike the balance. You coming from the faculty of law, but also knowing what has been going on in the past as the student body feels.
Thank you very much for your question. I think the yardstick for identifying leaders and including leaders in any guild leadership, let alone the cabinet, shouldn't just be about being a law student or any superior faculty that anyone would want to think of, because there is no such a superior faculty. One, we believe that every other person is capable. We already understand and know that we wouldn't want to get to crises where we're going to have leaders who are not taking on their responsibilities or who are not identified on merit. So one, the yardstick should be not just limited to you being a law student, because it would be a stereotype to believe that a law student is capable generally to do everything. Okay, yeah, that's a fact. So we would want to identify and embrace other human resource outside the law faculty, so long as a person is effective, so long as a person is good at what they're doing. Why not incorporate them? Okay.
Interesting. Chaz Miti says, we have seen posters of Dumba at our competing university, Casablanca University. I think that's sarcasm right there. I must commend Mr. Dumba for going as far as that, considering that in a video that launched these campaigns, he was seen to condemn drug and alcohol consumption. Mr. Dumba has articulated the university values quite well. How consistent is his move to attract drunkards to vote him in power? Wow.
Wow. To go to the extent of calling potential UCU students drunkards, because if he's talking about someone electing me, then the only people that can elect me are UCU students. So if he says drunkards elected, that means he is referring to the UCU students as drunkards, unless I'm wrong. otherwise, that is a very, very weird question. But to address it, he talked about posters at Casablanca.
I think they've seen
A bit of-
posters. Yeah, but then also seen you condemn drug abuse. So I think he's trying to understand what's the consistency of seeing your posters at
Yeah.
Casablanca, but then hearing you condemn drug and alcohol abuse. So I think he wants to see what the correlation there is.
First of all, the campaign that we were involved in was condemning drug abuse.
Yeah.
Yes. Doing drugs is a crime, but taking alcohol is not. Though personally, I do not take alcohol and I do not indulge in club activities as well. But it doesn't mean that people at clubs are drunkards or it is chaos that happens there. When you are a leader, it is all about encompassing the students that you serve. If we decide to be like, oh no, the people who go to Casa at night, they are drunkards, they're immoral, so we shouldn't even cater for their
It's funny how, because someone
their
says
views.
it's absurd that you think everyone who goes to Casablanca is a drunkard. Some of us go to dance and shake off stress. That's funny. We have some hands in the chat who would like to ask questions. So please go ahead and ask your question once you are unmuted. Jazz Meaty. He has his hand up.
Oh, yes.
Chaz Meaty. Yeah, so please go ahead and ask.
Thank you very much, Dorcas. My question goes to both of the guild contenders. One of the eminent problems of our time today is climate change. And we are seeing the government, different organizations, civil society groups coming up to actually support student-led projects or even innovations. And we would like to know what our good presidents have in preparation for our students to participate in climate solutions and as well seek opportunities to see that. Maybe we could leverage upon that to find backing for maybe less privileged students to maybe fund their tuition. So what strategies do they have to have a kind of climate initiative happening in the university? Thank you.
Please go ahead and answer the question.
All right. Well, a certain Charles Smithy, who happens to be the person asking this question, way back then approached me and we talked about the Save Soil campaign. So we have some active activists, climate activists among us as students. And as the student guild government, we can take on these activists because these activists are connected to big organizations that are championing this cause. For example, Save Soil is big.
Yes.
And Charles himself is a part of the representatives here in Uganda. So if we can give these people a platform using the 25th guild government, and they can enable us with them champion these activities, campaigns, bring aware. Because when Charles talks about saving soil, it's different from when someone also you watch an ad on TV. So when our friends talk about saving soil, it's different.
Interesting. About environmental conservation.
Thank you very much. Under my manifesto in regard to service delivery and welfare, I have a discussion on climate change and how we intend to have climate change initiatives as part of our targets in the next guild leadership. And so how do we intend to do this? One, we intend to put aside a budget, a minimum one, of course, because we're looking at climate change as a social responsibility of every single stakeholder, let alone leadership. So we intend to put aside a budget where we shall be doing climate environment-related activities such as tree planting, within the university and outside the university. We also intend to take on climate change initiatives from students and different partnering organizations and our foreign policy to make sure that we incorporate such support and awareness within the university through our leadership.
Interesting. We have another hand, Emmanuel Odongo Owundo. I hope I did justice to your name. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, hello. Yes, thank you so much. I think you've already mentioned my name very correctly. But then my question goes directly to Mr. Dumba. One on 10th, 11th, and 15th, today, actually, I've had him a number of times saying that he doesn't need a manifesto to do anything. So my question is, what is a manifesto to Mr. Dumba? What is really a manifesto? Because according to me, a manifesto is a public declaration of policy and aims, especially one issued before an election by a political party or a candidate. Now, he has been speaking about a manifesto that many people have promised and failed to fulfill, and he doesn't need a manifesto. According to me, these people did what they did. So according to him, yes, I want him to answer me. What is a manifesto? And why is he saying that he doesn't need a manifesto? If he doesn't need a manifesto, what is he actually doing right now? What is that he's reading to us? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel Odongo Owundo. A very, very clear question. But I think the issue is that maybe you misunderstood me at the beginning. The thing was, I've taken time to study the cycle of student leadership, and the manifestos have been brilliant. But the manifestos have not been implemented to above 50%. So the issue is not that as you talked about the definition of a manifesto, these are the intended policies and goals you're setting. That is not the issue. We always set goals, but the issue is the achieving of those goals. So I have the manifesto, I have the goals that I intend to set, but my major focus is how can we achieve those goals? Thank you.
I hope you're satisfied, Emmanuel, with what he has to say. I don't know who Full Stop is. I see just a full stop. I don't know if the name is Full Stop, but I think it would be nice if you really send in with your name. But Dumba for Guild, do we take that on? Yes, Dumba for Guild. It would be nice if you registered for the call with your name so that we can know exactly who it is.
Good evening. So I am a law student and a member of Edonu's campaign team. Told me personally that it would be better for us if we voted a fellow lawyer, because it would be looking out for each other. Apparently, in quotes, I quote, it would be looking out for each other and it would put us to an advantage. So I'm wondering how that is going to include the other faculties. This question goes to Edonu. Thank you.
I was wondering if it's Edonu who said it, but unfortunately, it wasn't.
Is it true
Edonu.
that you said it? Because
it
your words will be used against you.
Yeah. It wasn't Edonu who said it. So I disassociate myself from the statement. But like I would want to allude to my earlier response. I said that democracy and the need for leadership in Uganda Christian University goes beyond me just being a law student. If I am to sit in Koyoyo Hall during examination period and I have not paid my tuition, they do not want to know whether my guild president is a law student. They do not want to know. If the guild president has failed in his responsibility, like advocating for me or negotiating for me, either way, I will suffer the consequences because my guild president has failed. They do not want to know that he is a law student. So I think to say leadership should be alluded to just being a law student is an overstatement that we should put aside.
Okay, I hope that answer satisfies your question. I still don't know your name, but we'll take on 2 questions as we bring this conversation to an end. And I think Daniel has his hand up, so we will unmute him and then you can go ahead and speak. Daniel, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My question goes to Joram. I've heard him say tuition is the biggest challenge that the university faces. I'd like to know how he came to that conclusion. And I'd also like him to state clearly what is the fraction of those students that are facing this tuition challenge. Are they the majority or the minority? And if they're the majority, what of the others? What is the biggest challenge that they are facing? And how is he really going to tackle this tuition issue? Then also, I want to hear from Jerem, his opinion on whether the election semester is actually fair, because you're in a law-dominated semester, whereby, definitely within faculties, there's unity, whether we like it or not. Is it fair that we carry on university elections in a law-dominated semester? I can assure you we do not have any School of Business students on SEM right now. And it already makes it hard. It's already hard for a candidate from that faculty to even make it. And this is the second biggest faculty in the school. Does he think it's fair? And if not, what does he intend to do about it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You asked a question in regards to tuition and how I draw a conclusion and got to understand that tuition is actually the greatest challenge we face as a university. I think records state clearly, if you walked to accounts, and numbers as well state clearly whenever you look at our classes. And I'll say this right from the time many of us admitted to university. I'll talk about it in regards to my faculty and together with other faculty that I've identified with. You get to understand that out of 100% who are admitted, over time, each and every other time, it's 5% who keep dropping. Up to the 5%, it's actually tuition that burdens them so much, okay? And so it just doesn't end at the 5%, because that would seem would seem less, or would seem something small to handle. But it keeps graduating over time as students keep going forward with the academics. So you get to understand that out of the 100%, 60% end up actually graduating or end up in the final year of academics. That said, of course, together with out of the 60%, of course, who continue, a good many again are struggling with tuition and are either not able to access their transcripts immediately after graduation, not able to access a service, because like I said earlier on, the greatest challenge with tuition is actually inability to access a service in the university. Okay, not just you not just you being unable to pay your tuition. So of course, holding all those factors, getting to really taking note of all those factors, you get to understand that actually tuition is the biggest challenge we face as a university, that many students are not just only unable to pay their tuition, but also not able to access services due to it being a challenge. But also, let alone that, of course, that leaves us with a majority of students, okay? Up to about 60% of the students, if you checked with accounts, are unable to pay. I think unable to pay their tuition immediately. If you look at the number of students who sit in for an examination immediately upon clearance of full tuition, they do not actually make 100% of the class. They do not even make 40% of the class. Many of them have tuition balances. Okay, so you get to understand that tuition is the greatest challenge we face as a university. Like I said, it's our social responsibility together with the rest of the stakeholders to make sure that we contribute towards lifting the tuition burden on students and the administration. Key to note as well, again, the tuition burden is not only limited to students, but the dependence on tuition, thank you. The dependence on tuition is 90% as a basis of funding the administration, most especially after the COVID period. So that actually aggravates the tuition challenge. It's not only limited to students, but also administration. Looking at the university programming, I would as well say it's not fair. But again, this is how the administration has structured this. As leadership, we will keep pushing and seeing, because we've already seen some of the changes happen. Currently, we elect MP residents on SEM. So we would want to see a period. We will keep pushing as a guild leadership and see that we have a period that is in tandem, a period where the majority of students are on campus and so are able to participate in the election, which comes with, of course, synchronizing the programming, but it's going to come slowly. So we keep pushing.
So is that something
and
you can work
advocating
on during your term of office?
I think it's much administrative. For us as leadership is to keep advocating and reminding the
Okay.
administration and see how best we can synchronize
Okay.
the semesters.
There are quite a number of hands raised, but before we get on to the next person with their hands up, there are quite a number of questions in the comment section, and I will read. Well, still you don't indicate your name, but I think Trifin Ruth says there's a tweet where Dumba's opponent says that he is nothing more than a person who knows how to use a computer. What was the opposing team trying to prove there? I think that is you, because it seems your team said all he does is use a computer. So what do you have to say about that comment that came from one of your supporters?
Okay, thank you very much. As it is, this is a period of an election, and you expect anything from supporters, but also more importantly, for it not to go out of hand, it's okay to impact.
Do you
rather
agree with that
discipline.
kind of behavior?
I do not entirely agree, and that's why it's not
Entirely.
trending.
So to what
Yes.
extent do you agree with it, and to what extent do you not? What
En-
takes the bigger percentage? Because you say, I do not entirely.
entirely in the sense that wholly I wouldn't actually acknowledge
So you
it, rather-
partly
not
acknowledge it.
really. Not really.
Okay. I don't know who else. Can I please have a complete view of the names of the people that have their hands raised? Amenyo Sarah's hand has been up for a while, so I think we'll ask you, to unmute, and then you can go ahead and answer and pose your question. Amenyo Sarah,
Thank you so much. Yes, please. My name is
go
Amenyo
ahead and
Sarah.
ask.
This question goes to Dumba Timothy. I would like him to clarify to us when he says that during his guild, he's going to make Tuesday and Thursday the days whereby he will be meeting every student in the DH to make sure that they air out their problems. But I want him to tell us that there are those students who don't eat in guild, in the dining, and how is he going to reach out to those students? That's what I want to know from him.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that question, Sarah. Well, as I always keep saying, find the gap and then see how you can fill it. See what you can do, your small part to fill that gap. So when it comes to open guild days, this is an attempt to rebuild the connection between the government and the students, especially after campaigns. So that is why we picked the DH, because the DH is the common place. At least many people go to the DH. It has no doors. And when we sit in the DH and a table and a banner saying that you can come talk to us, not only issues, but simple questions like what happens when what do I do when I need an exemption letter? Those different things, like when is the tuition deadline coming up? Simple things. And then also when I talk about guild days, like Thursday 5 to 7 p.m., and then we reply in community worship the next week. Again, I'm not saying that community worship is where we find everyone, but it's where we find the biggest collection at that time. So we are attempting to rebuild that trust. When that trust is built, trust me, people will speak beyond. They will tell their friends, if you have an issue, go to DH on Thursday, or simply go to the guild offices anytime, because they have never been locked. It is just Thursday where we are taking an extra effort. Thank you.
I wonder how sustainable that is. Would still want to know, and the very many questions that are coming in on the last minute, but we have to bring this amazing conversation to an end. It's been hot in here. I don't know. There's SC, but I see people sweating. Yeah, I hope that we can see how much worth this has been. Still, please go ahead and pose your questions, especially on Twitter using the hashtag UCUDecides22. And I'm confident that our candidates will have time to respond to each of those questions when they can. So please go ahead and send in your questions and your comments from this debate. Please tell us again whom you'll be rooting for. But thank you very much for engaging with us. And as we wrap up the conversation, I would like to know, drawing back to the basics, what inspired you to stand for guild president? Timothy, you want to start?
Yes, it is very simple. every time I step into a society, as I said, I do not know everything. But my one thing is to see, as I always say, is to see the people that I serve or the people around me achieve things that they never thought they would alone. So that is always, whenever I step into a society, I'm like, what can I do here?
What can you add
What
to the
can we
society?
together? Yes. achieve?
Interesting. Jerem, what inspired you to go for Guild President?
My inspiration to take on the leadership responsibility of Guild President ranges from the need to serve the university community of Uganda Christian University. And service to me means putting the interests of the electorate forward. Okay. Secondly, the need to represent students. That means I ought to be the voice of the students and the bridge between the students and the administration. Okay. And then lastly, the need to solve our different challenges as a contribution of leadership towards every single student's stay in the university. And my vision, like I said earlier on, is to beautify every single student's experience in the university.
Interesting. Lastly, but not least, I think this is the moment where you tell us why you think you're the better candidate. So Timothy, why do you think that whoever is watching will be missing out if they don't vote you? Yeah, this is your chance to put your best foot forward.
That is a question that we always expect,
Yeah.
but you never have an exact answer to it. Because at least one thing that I and Jerem agree with is that regardless of the results, we shall work together in one way or another. So there will be there's nothing necessarily that maybe they may miss out as a electorate, but maybe.
So is that a thing that you guys would do? You'd work together? You would? You said that's a one thing you have in common, that you'd work together, regardless of what the results would be. So we can hold you to your word that you are willing to work together.
I think
he seems to have a different. No. We'll get into that.
I think from my sharing with Timothy, and like I said, I respect every single person's ambition to take on leadership. But working together is not a big deal for me. I would be happy to work with Mr. Timothy here. He's a good brother.
I think you seem to have great rapport. I was talking to you earlier.
But also more importantly, it's key to note that the process that leads us towards identifying the real leader matters so much. Okay. I think if I was hurt over the process towards identifying with that leader, it would kind of limit my level of association.
Interesting. It's a transparency for me. Yeah, you are still telling us why you think you're the better candidate as we wrap this conversation up.
Well, only God knows who the better candidate is. What I can give to you is that I am a different candidate. I'm a different candidate from what we've seen before, not because I know myself too well, but it's because I've been hungry as a person who has participated in elections before, as a person who has voted before. It's like I'm a voter who has just been given chance to, okay, what can you do? So I'm hungry to be different. I'm hungry to see things work. I don't think anyone shares that hunger with me at the moment, apart from, of course, the people who see it and would like to go further with me.
Interesting. Jerem, why do you think you're the better candidate, or the candidate that they should vote for?
Thank you very much. I shared with you my motivation to take on leadership, that is to serve, represent, and solve. But also, as Jeremy Dono, I'm coming from a sensitive point of view, from an objective point of view, where I have sat and experienced these challenges within the university. I have come a long way together with a good many of friends within the university. I've amassed a vast experience in the university for my past 3 years, and it gives me that sense of belonging. It gives me that understanding of whatever is happening in the university and a call for leadership itself. And to me, really taking on leadership should be a motivation to every single student outside there. Every single student who feels left out, every single student who feels like leadership should respond to them regardless of who they are, regardless of how weak they are. One student who's suffering with no supper at their hostel, one student suffering with tuition outside there, that yes, I am here for you and we will work together and I'll stand for you. That is how sensitive I will be to you.
Great. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a heated, but I think very fruitful conversation. And the decision is now in your hands. You have met and interacted with the candidates, I think, on a deeper level. And I hope that gives us insight on who we think will take UCU to the next level, to shine the candle brighter, to ensure that we are the center of excellence in the heart of Africa. But please, just a reminder that if you've not verified your eligibility to vote, please go ahead and check alpha.ucu.sc.ug and ensure that your email is displayed on your dashboard and it is active, okay? And then also ensure that you can see all the positions that you qualify to vote for. And please do not share your password because it is meant to be private, and that way we can keep the election free and fair, okay? You see, you want to correct yourself, okay?
Well, for accountability purposes, because that is what I stand for, when it came to the question of the Hostel Owners Association head, I talked about the owner of Corners. I don't know why, but it is actually the one of Pameja. It was a slip of that time. Last time I checked anyway. Could change anytime.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. It has been lovely having you with us. Thank you for engaging with us and sticking with us to the end. We appreciate it. And please go ahead and verify your eligibility to vote. Come Friday, right? We hope that it will be a free and fair election, but most importantly, please show up and cast your vote because your decision in this matters. Thank you very much, and please keep the conversation flowing using the hashtag UCUDecides22 to ensure that we are still in touch and that we can know exactly what it is that is going on. There's been a poll running. Please go ahead and cast your vote on that poll just to give us an idea of who will take the slot. But thank you very much, gentlemen. Well done. It's been lovely and such an honor to have this conversation with you. From us here at the UCU Political Command Center, it is a good night, and thank you very much for joining us.